So here we are, the first morning, just rolling into Arachula to catch up with the boys and get the show on the road. So let's see what Neil and Barry are on. The answer to that question is heavy metal. Check those bikes out. Carried some stuff. And from there we entered cotton country. You can see how straight the rows of cotton are that have been planted by GPS-driven tractors, and cotton being transported and cotton being stacked and stored. So then we stopped for lunch, and then just for something completely different, went into some more cotton. So as you can imagine, we had to do a bit of tar seal to get to our destination. We stopped overnight in Kalanabrai. I'm not saying that right, I'm sure. And then did a couple more days riding some dirt, mostly tar seal, until Steve and I hooked up in Junta. So basically I'm only going to show some of the dirt roads that we rode on, just showing a bit of the variety of country that we rode through, and really not going to do too much with regards to the bits and pieces that were tar seal, joining it all up, because that is a little bit boring. So I also only turned the camera on when there was something interesting to record, which usually meant hills or corners. So this is just a selection of the places that we rode and the different tracks that we rode. Enjoy. So that's the Flinders Ranges, and we've been riding in there for the last few days and it's been amazing. And now we're back to the flat, featureless outback. So we're just going to do a drone shot. So as you can hear, my camera sits on the outside of my helmet. It's got a microphone and mainly picks up wind noise if you're going above 50 or 60 kilometers an hour, and the rest of the time that's all you can hear above that. So I've turned that down on some of these, but you know, it was really interesting to see the different types of terrain that we could ride through, particularly in the Flinders and Gammon ranges. You know, it changed quite a lot. There was creek crossings that you could tell a lot of water came through when it was wet. We were riding through in very, very dry conditions, and actually didn't see any rain until literally the last day on the way home between Goondiwindi and home. So we were very lucky with the weather, and in fact we met up with a bunch of guys who weren't so lucky with the weather, and a few of them burnt their clutches out in the mud, having had to push their bikes for quite a while and send their bikes in, get new clutches and catch up with their riding buddies again. So yeah, we were, as I say, very lucky with the weather. It was cold but dry. There are plenty of long, straight, boring roads with almost nothing to look at, and you know, I stop once in a while, turn the camera on and just do a pan from side to side to have a look at it, to look around at the surroundings. And funnily enough, the whole time that you're doing that, you also keep your eyes on the side of the road, you know, constantly looking for roos, emus, and you know, we saw lots and lots of goats, which were actually quite road smart, and we saw pretty much everything else that you would expect to see splattered on the side of the road, sometimes in alarming numbers. So We only got passed, in actual fact, by 2 or 3 vehicles on the whole trip, and that was on the tar seal sections. And on one of them, just as we were being passed out of the bush, came half a dozen kangaroos at full clip, went in between Steve, the ute, and then Neil, and then I. By the time I got my camera on, I only recorded the last few seconds of it. But I also took opportunities like this to go off and have a little bit of an explore off to the side of the track, and see what some of these creeks were like, and just have a look around. We always had a little bit of time up our sleeve, as long as we had lots of sunlight and time to get off the road before it was getting dark. Yeah, got a good chance to have a look around. Stopped in some things like this big clay pan that's pictured there, and then anytime there were hills or anything of significance, we stopped, and Barry and Steve would put their drones up and have a look around. So Steve on his videos got a lot of nice drone shots, and I've got a little bit more along the lines of just the rider eye view of most of the places that we went.
Malulu Homestead, in the middle of the Flinders Ranges. Pretty cool.
So once in a while our exploration took us a little bit further than we thought, and a little later than we thought, and in this occasion we were just heading back to our accommodation, but it was getting dusk, so we all rode very carefully, looking to the sides, and all the animals were coming out to play, so we all took it very easy and just cruised home to get home before dark.
On the way to Hawker, wide open country. We're going to go about 100 k's that way and up, or we can go 45 k's straight through there, but we think there might be a fence in between, so maybe not. That's where we came from. Razorback Ridge. Pretty cool. Although if your razor looks like that, I think you're having a rough day.
So as you can see from the videos, most of the time I'm following, and I was lucky enough to ride with Steve, Neil and Barry, who have done parts, if not all of this trip before, and I didn't even have to do any navigating for the whole trip. I didn't open a map or an app or have an opinion as to where we were going or where I wanted to go at any point. so I had it very easy. We used the cornerman system, which means that whoever's leading, when the second person gets to the intersection, if it's not straight ahead, obvious, but if the second person gets to the intersection, they wait for the other riders to come by and then become the last person, so that way the second, third and fourth riders all rotate together. If you were wondering how we did the navigation side of it, it's quite a good system and works quite well. We stopped to take pictures of anything that was interesting, and found an old copper mine that had been operational from, I think, 1860 to 1866 before it was played out. So it was amazing how many things are out there that are ruined and are abandoned. So then we just stop in random places and take a photo. You know, you can only ride for a few hundred kilometres and you want to have a break. And here we are rolling down into an old sheep station that was actually quite extensive. It would have taken them a fair while to build this. There was a lot of work involved, a lot of buildings. Further up, a shearing shed, and you know, it would have been a sizable operation back in its day. We also rode over and had a look at the didn't ride into, but had a look in the cemetery there, and it was amazing how short people's lives were. And obviously it was rough being out there on your own, having to fend for yourself, and I guess there was no doctors or anything on call back then. So yeah, really interesting how much work went into these buildings and outbuildings, and you know, all looked to be very, very well put together, still to be standing all this time. Yeah, so this one's called the Kanyaka Homestead, and we had a good look around there. It was quite interesting, and yeah, I might leave this video here while we're in the Flinders and see what I've got put together of the trip out to Cameron Corner and back, and maybe do another video of that. So yep, that's all for now. I hope you enjoyed this little vid. Cheers.